So anyway, today I want to discuss why diets are failing us. Counting calories to lose weight has now been medically proven not to work long term. That's a given, okay? So for all of you, let me also do this here. Okay, great. Soci, welcome. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I'm a nutritional researcher for 21 years. This is one of my first best-selling books called Why Diets Are Failing Us. And today, that's what we're going to discuss, why counting calories to lose weight is completely obsolete, according to Harvard Medical School and many of the other studies that are out there. Hello, Penn Testor. We're going to discuss today why diets are failing us. Or not. Well, hello, everybody. Maria Matthews, I believe it is. Welcome. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I'm a nutritional newbie. Hello. I'm a nutritional researcher. I've written the best-selling book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. And we're going to talk about today and show you the medical proof why dieting by counting calories is completely obsolete. As a matter of fact, Harvard Medical School has said, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. So if any of you are going on diets and you're trying to lose weight by lowering calories, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it doesn't work. Period. End of the story. Not up for debate. There's medical evidence after medical evidence proving counting calories to lose weight has now been medically proven not to work. The real benda. Okay. So we're going to talk about my book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, because they are. And I want to show you all that even Harvard Medical School has said counting calories in, calories out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. And what we need to concentrate is not what's in the calorie, but not how many calories we're consuming, but what's in the calorie. That's where all diets fail, and they do. Listen, we've got 80% of America overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic. Do you know right now that 77% of military age men and women can't get into the military, even if they want to, because they're overweight or obese? 77%. I've got a study here done by the Johns Hopkins Medical School. They're now projecting that by 30, in less than 6 years, 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese. As we sit here today, 80% of America is overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic. Do any of you really think that diets work? This book, which I wrote in 2010, which was a huge bestseller, we based the whole principle saying, why are people counting calories? The enemy is not calories. Only thing that matters instead of counting calories is we need to make every calorie count. The reason diets don't work is really pretty simple. It comes down to basic metabolism inside the body. The body has a certain, let's call it a horizon of nutrition. As long as you don't go below that horizon, the body doesn't transfer and go into starvation mode. Every diet out there is some form of lowering the quantity of food you're consuming. When you drop below that horizon, the body immediately goes into starvation mode, prevents you from burning fat, and goes and looks for what? Nutrition for fuel, for the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, and our muscles. When the body senses not enough nutrition, it triggers this starvation alarm bell and begins to convert your muscles into carbohydrates for fuel. That's so inefficient that the body doesn't have a choice. What it does, it slows down your metabolism. That's why you plateau on all these diets you're on. That's why every diet out there in the long run, people are losing up to 40% of their lost weight is lean muscle. And I'll read another big study in here. They said people who go on a calorie restricted or calorie lowering diet, 66 and 2/3 of the people gain back more weight than they lost. See, we're researchers. We don't give you opinions, okay? I've written 4 best-selling books, all with MDs, okay? I'm not trying to impress you. I did 20 shows on PBS. I've been interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America and did over 1,500 live lectures all over the world, including even in China. And that what's happening worldwide now, it's a pandemic. We have, according to the Lancet, one of the biggest medical journals in the world, I'll read from it, they said now currently we believe 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition in the world. What? Obese people are malnourished? Yeah. See, we don't give you opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people on social media that give you opinions. If you're interested in why diets are failing us, because they are. Yeah, I mean, in 2018, just 6 years ago, 42% of America was obese. 6 years later, it's 50%. And now Johns Hopkins Medical School is projecting that by 2030, in less than 6 years, that 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese. What diet are you on that you think works? How would these numbers be possible? If any of these diets work, you don't have to believe me. Go to Barnes & Noble. My books are in Barnes & Noble. I love Barnes & Noble. But go to the diet section. It'll blow your mind. And in a big study that was done by the Journal of the American Medical Association, right? In 12 months, they looked at 48 different studies of every diet out there. And what they concluded was this. In a year's time, when they looked at the least amount of weight loss, whether it was paleo or keto or Mediterranean or time restricted or the zone diet or the Cornish diet or Atkins or lose weight for your blood type or Jenny Craig Weight Watchers Nutrisystem, the most amount of weight to the least amount of weight loss in a year was 10 ounces. And in the study, what did they find? At the end of 12 months, the average weight loss over 48 different studies, 7,286 people, was 16 pounds in a year, with 40% being lean muscle mass. I mean, ask yourself a question. Did you ever think about that? Is your diet doing something for you, or is it doing something to you? All the medical proof proves that this methodology that we have, I mean, it says right there, Harvard Medical School, stop counting calories. It's not just antiquated, it's just wrong. They're saying, agreeing with me 14 years later, that the only thing that matters is what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. I mean, look at the before and after pictures of all that sagging skin people have, because the only thing that people are losing on diets is their lean muscle, or not all of it, but 40%, up to 40% they're losing. And again, with all due respect, you can follow any of the influencers on social media, but are any of them showing you one shred of medical evidence? And aren't they all telling you the same thing? Can anybody put in the chat a diet that's not some form of lowering calories, counting calories, misery? They should have a misery index for diets. Well, here's the good news. It's not all bad. After 21 years of research, there are 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies. When you're talking about a peer-reviewed human trial study, there's nothing higher in medical research. No drug ever gets approved. Finally, the researchers who did this, let me give you the overview. This new approach, which wasn't a diet, which wasn't about counting calories, men and women literally lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet that's ever been studied. They lost as much weight in 30 days as people lost on all these diets in a year with no loss of water. And instead of losing lean muscle, which I pointed out to you on every diet studied, they're losing lean muscle. These people gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Who did the research? These are the top weight loss, nutritional, exercise researchers, not just nutritional researchers, but physiologists. And in case you don't know, that's the study of how all this stuff interacts inside of all of our organs. Well, they've done 150 studies over 38 years. They're the number one people in the world. And what they concluded, what they said was this: after 38 years and 150 different studies, every person lost weight. It didn't matter what the diet was. They joked and said, look, you can lose weight on the Coca-Cola diet. I'm not kidding you. But what were they losing? Again, in the study, this isn't an opinion I'm giving you. In the studies, 25 to 40% of what everybody lost on every diet was lean muscle mass. And every person, every time, gained back all their weight or more. Well, according to this new study, they're saying 66 and 2/3 of people who go on any diet by lowering and restricting calories gain back more weight than they lost. What's the point of losing the weight only to gain it all back? And then you think, well, that diet didn't work. No, it was the wrong approach. I just saw a big article today by a major medical doctor, a weight loss, obesity specialist, talking about protein. Well, you got to eat enough protein every day. They don't even understand. Protein itself, this will blow some of your minds. Protein itself is actually a toxin to your body. What? Yeah. But protein is the only way you get the 20 amino acids. 9 are called essential. You have to get them from your diet. The other 11 are non-essential. So really all protein, see, this is all this misinformation. And new research, which came out of Europe about 8 years ago, when you ingest protein, you get all 20 amino acids. Sounds great. I'm going to get 120 grams of protein. I'm getting 120 grams. No, you're not. When they did blood, stool, fat, and urine analysis, they could tell you, they found out when you ingested protein from a plant or an animal, you got all 20 amino acids. That sounds great. Happy day. However, when they measured the percentage, the amount of the amino acid that was being used by the body to remake us, because amino acids are called the building blocks of life. I mean, I'll give you 3 examples. We'll remake the lining of our stomach twice this month. We'll make 2 new livers this year, and we'll turn over almost every cell in our body once every 7 years. That doesn't happen with fats. It doesn't happen with carbohydrates, and it doesn't happen with protein itself. It only occurs because of amino acids. So again, the key would be not that you're getting all 20, well, what percentage of the 20 are your genes using to remake us? Well, and I don't mean to make vegans mad. I'm just giving you the science. It has no emotions. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have a prejudice. Plant-based proteins like a pea protein, when they tested the absorption, was only 10% out of 100. 90% was toxic waste the kidneys had to get rid of. Secondly, when they looked at steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., the absorption was 30%. Well, the researchers, one of the things they found, and I'll explain that all in detail, but just give you an overview, they found a protein source where the absorption was 91%. So how did they come up with this? Because this was a theory, and here's what the theory. Was it possible? They didn't know. Could you lower the amount of food that people consumed, like on any typical diet, but how could you avoid also then dropping proportionally the nutrition? Well, in all the studies they'd done, they'd relied obviously on organic food from North America. But the problem with our food in North America is becoming more and more nutritionally deficient. Okay, so what did the researchers say? Well, we're going to limit the amount of food we're going to let people consume to 40% of what they would normally buy at let's say, organic. The other 60%, what they had done, they had found researchers who had found food sources over the last 25 years that had massive amounts of nutrition, not massive amounts of calories. And where did the researchers of the kind of the researchers of the researchers, where did they find these food sources? In Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. So what they were able to do, here's a simple way to explain it to you, they created the world's first perfect meal, because you got to eat, right? So only 40% of the time were people consuming, of 100% of the food you would consume in a day or a week or a month, only 40% came from the grocery store down the street, let's say, for example. But the other 60% came from these sources. Now, what are the things we're deficient in? Number 1, what are called trace ionic minerals. Now, not iron, calcium, magnesium. You've all heard of those. But what are trace ionic minerals? They're things like gold and silver and zinc, believe it or not, arsenic and molybdenum and boron and beryllium, okay? We need 70. And in the best organic you can buy today, if you went out today and tried to buy it, you get 15 to 20 minerals. So the first thing, as part of the world's most perfect meal, the researchers knew you had to have 70 minerals. I mean, we need 70. Why are we relying on 20? Okay? I mean, it's kind of like you go out to fill up your car and you only fill it up a quarter of the way. Okay? I mean, you know you're going to run out of fuel pretty fast. Now, the second thing were the amino acids. And I just explained that to you a minute ago, that when you ingest a protein, you get all 20 amino acids and you think that's great. Doesn't mean a thing. Only thing that matters is what percentage of the 20 amino acids are being used in the body. So instead of getting like 30% from all steak, chicken, liver, fish, didn't matter, that they'd used in the previous studies, they found a source that was 91% of the aminos. Okay, so now you had, again, part of the perfect meal, the 70 minerals, the 91% absorption of aminos. The third thing they found was a very high grade, what's called an electrolyte. An electrolyte allows you basically to absorb fluids, okay? The fourth thing they did, they, in this case, went all the way to Mongolia and Manchuria to find what are called adaptogens, okay? That's a fancy word. But here's what I'm so amazing about it. Back in the 60s, when the Russians and East Germans were kicking our butts in track and field, they were giving their athletes these adaptogens. And what do adaptogens do? They massively lower stress and inflammation in the body. So their athletes could run 100 yards, come back, rest like for 10 minutes, and then run a 220 or run a relay race. Because why? They were able to reduce inflammation, which is a byproduct of working out. But that's not the reason to take it. The main reason you would take it as part of your meal, it lowers stress, but also lowers inflammation. Now, lest you think they're making up, in the studies, when they analyzed through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, the researchers with this new, the world's most perfect food, lowered inflammation by 25% in a month. And the fifth thing they found was a food source with massive amounts of naturally occurring vitamins. Oh, you might tell me, well, I'm taking a multivitamin now, et cetera. Well, I can't guarantee you, but 80 or 90% of all vitamins on the market are synthetic. They're made in a laboratory. The body does not really relate to that. So now the perfect meal was what? All the 70 trace minerals, a 91% absorption of aminos, the electrolyte, the adaptogens, and this massive amount of naturally occurring vitamins. So now they had the ingredients, but they didn't have, remember, this is all theoretical when they started these studies a few years ago, but based on 38 years of research of seeing what didn't work. Kind of like, when they asked Thomas Edison about, you failed 3,000 times inventing the light bulb. He said, no, I didn't. I just figured out 3,000 ways not to invent it. So the researchers had the benefit of 38 years of analyzing over 150 diets and realized they didn't work. They didn't work long term. Why would you go on a diet? To lose the weight just to gain it back? So you felt good for a little while? But what did you do to yourself on the diet you went on by lowering the calories? Because all the studies are very clear. When you go on a diet and you lower the amount of food you're consuming, you're lowering the amount of nutrition. Well, the body, because the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, the spleen, they all run on nutrition. They don't run on calories. They don't even know what a calorie is. So the body has to make up for this deficiency. And it goes and it breaks our muscles down, turns them into fuel. But what happens on these diets, when you lose lean muscle, the body doesn't have a choice. It slows down your metabolism, your ability to burn calories, period, end of the story, not up for debate. So this whole thing about calories in, calories out to lose weight, boom, out the window, bunk. Right there it says Harvard Medical School says stop counting calories. And they said, let me read from the study. They said the idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They said we need to put the emphasis on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. So that's what the researchers did. They went out and said, wait a minute, is it possible? They didn't know. We could lower the amount of food, but not lower the amount of nutrition, okay? So I just explained to you, 40% of the food came from the grocery store, 60% came to form the world's most perfect meal, which part of the world's most perfect meal did not include the typical regular food that you would consume. So they created, in 7 days, each week when people were doing this, they had 5 days where they did something called protein pacing. Well, it's real simple. They started their day, their first meal of the day was the world's most perfect meal. No food from the grocery store, okay? But lunchtime, food from the grocery store. Dinner time, food from the grocery store. Then they had a fourth meal after dinner, not a dessert. Again, another one of the world's most perfect food, nothing to do with food from the grocery store. Then 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting. What? Yeah, not fasting, not time-restricted eating, nothing like that, okay? So what they did was they were able to then have people on those days, on the 48 hours, no food from the grocery store. Only the world's most perfect meals 4 times a day, which represented massive amounts of nutrition, but very few calories if you wanted to use calories as a measurement. See, now why is that so critical? Because last night when we all went to sleep, as long as we didn't eat too late, once we went to sleep, our body slows down digestion. When you slow down digestion, the body automatically, without us doing anything, turns on a natural detox mechanism. It has a name. It's called autophagy. That's what the scientists call it. I call it's basically taking the trash out. It's when the body, when we're sleeping, gets rid of all the dead cells and things like that are accumulating in our body. Well, the researchers, they've effectively recreated autophagy when people are awake. Now, again, lest you just think it's a claim, it's not. In the studies, what did they find? They did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis and proved that this protocol was assisting the body in doing what? Removing, herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon from the body. Now, the other evidence was what we now know is that we're all, in case you didn't know, we're living in an incredibly toxic world. The water, the air, the food, loaded with chemicals, better living through chemistry to a point, right? Well, what the body does when you ingest these foreign objects, they're called toxicants or toxins, when they enter the body first presents them to the liver. Do you know, right, because of that now, 45% of the American population is considered have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And in 1975, there wasn't one case, according to Dr. Robert Lustig at Stanford Medical School, a lot smarter than me. He gave these statistics because the liver is being overwhelmed by these chemicals. The liver is being the biggest filter in the body. So the body first presents the toxin to the liver. What do you do when the liver fills up? The liver shouldn't have any fat in it, number one. That's what non-alcoholic fatty liver disease means. Okay, so then the body, as new chemicals come in, because we're under attack 24/7, 365 days a year, the body then, as its last line of defense, takes the chemical and stuffs it in our visceral fat. That's the fat around the organs. This is a given. They know this now, right? And if you thought of those fat cells like a balloon, as the chemical enters, the fat cell expands. So we don't really lose fat cell, they expand or they contract. Well, in the studies, they proved that the visceral fat, where the chemicals were stored, it went down, it shrank by 33% in 8 weeks, no one allowed to exercise. That was something I should have said in the beginning. So again, to recap, this new breakthrough, which is not a diet, it's not about counting calories, men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet that's ever been analyzed by these researchers. They did 150 studies of every diet out there. So obviously they knew the statistic, they knew the numbers because they'd done the research, right? Then in 30 days, people lost as much as people were losing in a year on any diet. But here was the thing, from a safety standpoint, no water lost, and instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise. I mean, you could do whatever diet you want. I get people all the time, the only way to lose weight is to, calorie deficit. No, that's nonsense. Even Harvard Medical School said, no more. Stop the rhetoric. Calories in, calories out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. But we have another huge problem facing us, okay? Now let me pause for just a moment for everyone. I put up there, you can see the New Health Conversation is a free medical website that you can go to. There's, for example, none of my books are for sale. I'm not selling you books. I don't need to sell you books, okay? We have put on there the medical proof of exactly what I'm sharing with you, okay? I'm even going to show you the website just so you don't think I'm making it up. There's nothing to buy on that website. The only thing on there is the medical proof. There's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. There's a video explanation of what did they do in more detail. The research studies are there for you to see. And number 4, are not just before and after pictures of weight loss, but their blood sugar, A1C, cholesterol, triglycerides, etc. It'll blow your mind, okay? So the idea here is that you now have an opportunity for free. And by the way, if you go to that website, we won't contact you. Absolutely not. We don't need to. We rely on science. We don't rely on hype. And if you go there and you like what you see, and only if you like what you see, you'll see it says schedule a free personal. Yeah, it may, Maria, but we have the medical proof proving it, okay? Proving it, okay? So that's the difference, Maria. We're not making a claim. I understand look, I tried to tell you, the researchers, they were shocked. But why did they build lean muscle with no exercise? Because how do we make lean muscle in our body? With one of the 20 amino acids called leucine. Well, if you're getting steak, chicken, liver, fish, protein, you're getting only 30% absorption of all 20 amino acids, including leucine. Well, in the studies, they found a protein source where the absorption of all 20 amino acids was 91%, a 600% increase. And the researchers on purpose made sure people didn't exercise because they wanted to take exercise out of the equation, especially with building lean muscle. You can see it's right there. These are published major studies in the Obesity Journal, in the Nutrition Journal, in Frontiers in Nutrition, in Frontiers Nature Communications, the #1 medical journal in the world. That's why this is such an incredible breakthrough. It's not just a scientific study or a clinical study. These are peer-reviewed human trials. This research was reviewed by the top medical doctors and researchers in the world. around the world. This is not some little deal. This, according to the researchers, it will obsolete every diet you've ever heard of, every diet you've ever been on, okay? I understand your skepticism, but again, you can see the medical proof. It's there. You don't get published if you make up. What the researchers do, they try and discredit what you're proving. So to your point, how do you gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass while sitting on the couch? They did it and they have the proof. That's what's different. I'm not giving you opinions, okay? I don't need to do that. We have the medical proof. Listen, I've written 4 best-selling books with medical doctors. I did 20 shows on PBS. I've been interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America and did over 1,500 lectures all over the world, including in China. I'm not telling you to impress you, but I'll tell you this, for 20 years, despite all that academic research that I had done with some of the top medical doctors in the world, it meant zero in the medical world. Until 15 months ago, when these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies started to come out on this research. If you know much about peer-reviewed studies, they take a long time. This is going to change everything. Everything. I mean, look at the disaster we have now. 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic. I just learned out today, 77% of all people, young people eligible for the military today, 77% are rejected because of weight and obesity. What? It's now a national security issue. But let's go to Johns Hopkins Medical School. Just came out, and not just came out, but they projected, they said, if the current trend continues, 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030 in less than 6 years. Right now, it's 80% overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. In 2018, the obesity number was 42%. It's grown by almost 24% in 6 years. Does anybody think diets are working? But listen to this. They went on to say, this is Johns Hopkins. This isn't my opinion, right? They said, even more troubling, the authors note, is by 2048, all American adults will become overweight or obese if the current trend continues. Well, the graph's going like this. It's not going like this. It's not even leveling out. What are we doing? What are we doing? That was why when we wrote this book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, back in 2010, there's been 3 updates to it since then. We got a lot of criticism, granted, because we were theoretically proposing the fact, why are we counting calories? The human body doesn't count calories. The calories is not a real thing. It's a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. Why are we counting calories? Instead of making every calorie count. That was the premise of what we had said. Well, now we got people like Harvard Medical School, the Journal of the American Medical Association, over and over and over again, all saying the same thing. Stop counting calories. Here's a big study where they said this. 66 2/3 of people who go on any diet by lowering calories, restricting calories, gain back more weight than they lost. How much more evidence, proof do we need? What we're doing, does anyone think it's working? Could you have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic if any of these diets worked? And yet we have the proof now that not only does this work, but it's safe and it's medically proven in 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies. But there's another part to this. High fructose corn syrup is a real problem. Just tell us about that. It's not a product, Stephen, first of all. No, I was 40 pounds. I'll tell you what I was. My mother, my mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I lived with it. I loved her. She was awesome. And 23 years ago, she called me up one day and she said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I would give anything if I could spend 24 hours thin. I said, that's really cool, Mom. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. A major reason why I became a researcher. My mother, in my opinion, dieted herself to death. I'd see her lose 20 pounds, gain 25 pounds back, lose 25, gain 30 back, over and over and over again. So I lived with obesity my whole life. Myself, I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. So I would consider myself probably at least borderline obese at that point in time. And like I said, the best thing about this is the researchers now, after 2 and 3 years, the people who were in the studies have maintained their weight loss now for 2 or 3 years. I mean, that's the problem with a diet. Diet's always a destination. One of the things that really, I find fascinating is so many times when people, they'll go through this and they'll lose, like I said, they lose as much weight in a week as in 8 weeks of any diet, right? And even when they have these amazing results, they'll say, do I have to do this the rest of my life? And I'm going like, It's a privilege if you want it. There's no point in doing this if you're not focused on being able to keep the weight off long term. That's why it's called R2M. That's what the researchers call it. It stands for race to maintenance. So let me pause for just a moment again. Any of you, as skeptical as you are, we've provided the free, I'm going to put it up there again for you, our free medical website where you can go and all the medical proof is there. If I can just get it to post. Let's see, all the photos. Yeah, it's an amazing Gaia. But that's true. If you look at pictures from the 80s or even 90 compared to today, it's insane, right? Control V. Hold on one second. It should post. Okay, there you go. Posted twice. The New Health Conversation, no spaces. It's free to go there. There's nothing to buy. Now, lest you think you're going to go there and you're going to buy my book. I don't want you to buy my books. No. Now, the reason for that is that site has the most current, up-to-date medical proof. I mean, this book, I wrote it in 2010, 14 years ago, and we've done 2 or 3 updates, but we can't keep, because there's some of it, like this, one of the studies that just came out, 8 weeks ago, in Nature Communications, the number one medical journal in the world, where it wasn't even about the weight loss. See, this sounds crazy. The main reason to think about doing this is not to lose weight. That's a given, but that's the least important reason. Like in this most recent study they published in Nature Communications was all about our gut, which is called your microbiome, which is your immune system within your stomach area. Now, I can pretty much talk about this in great detail because we wrote the definitive book on it called Your Third Brain. I wrote it with one of the top oncologists in the world, who also is a molecular biologist, who also worked with 2 men who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine, who out of 237 scientific papers that he's published over the course of his lifetime, 2 of his papers are in the top 10% of all medical papers ever published. But again, let me be clear. I'm not the researcher. I'm not the expert. That's why it says I'm the researcher of the researchers. So what did we make available to all of you? That website there's nothing to buy there. There's no celebrity endorsements. The only thing there is the medical proof. Let me show you all again, the actual website. If you go to the New Health Conversation, this is what you're going to see. An interview with the number one nutritional researcher in the world, a video explanation in more detail about what they actually did, the actual studies themselves, and before and after pictures that aren't just about weight loss, but about the medical changes that these people experienced as they went through the protocol. Oh, what kind of a pig are you? God. I mean, some people are just, it's whatever. Anyway, you gotta eat more food with more fiber, vitamins, minerals, and you'll be Gucci. I'm not sure what you mean by that. What is the website? Okay. You sent info to buy a product pack from No, I didn't. I didn't send anything. There's nothing to buy on that website, so I'm not sure what you're making up. So anyway, no, there's nothing on. I just showed you the website. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Do you see anything to order on there? Do you see anything to buy on there? And also, even with your comment, okay, what weight loss, nutrition, supplement program, JDHL in the world have 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies? Who would it be? Who would it be? Please put it in the chat because I think you'll find there is nobody that has that, okay? But for everybody else, the point is that website is pure medical research. There's nothing to buy. Only if you like what you see, then you can sign up for a free consultation with one of our coaches. It's free. And the coach, if you decide to do it, will be your coach if you go through it. Secondly, the world's most perfect meals that I talked about in the very beginning, and I'll go over it again because I know we get new people all the time. Those 5 different foods that come from all over the world, the fulfillment companies that supply those offer 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. So what's the risk? I don't know. I guess your skepticism, okay? So anyway, Sunny, day 8. Oh, great. I wonder how you're doing. But JDHL, you got it. Where did you get the info? Because you can, again, let me show you the website. What's on there to order? There's nothing on there to order. So with all due respect, I mean, congratulations. I hope it's good for you. Wow, Sunny Roo down 5 pounds yesterday. Way to go. Fantastic. Let's see. Okay, so let me review for everybody again. Okay, so what are we talking about? First of all, I wrote the book Why Diets Are Failing Us, a huge bestseller in 2010. Then I wrote the TDOS syndrome. We're going to talk about that in a moment, which I'm going to really open your eyes about why you really gaining weight and why you can't lose it. Then we wrote the TDOS solutions in the fourth book, which I showed before, Your Third Brain. Okay, so essentially, here's where we are from a scientific standpoint of view. 80% of America's overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic, okay? Now, the researchers who did these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, okay? They have done 38 years of research on 150 different diets, okay? They found out that every diet out there, whether it was paleo, keto, Mediterranean, didn't matter, people lost weight. But they proved through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis that people were losing up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. As a result, every person, every diet, every time gained back at least as much weight as they lost or more. So when they theoretically put this protocol together, they had to overcome a huge obstacle. What was the obstacle? Because every diet you've ever been on in your lifetime is some form of lowering the quantity of the food you're consuming. The problem with that is when you lower the amount of food you're consuming, you lower the amount of nutrition. Your body doesn't care about a calorie, doesn't know about calories. We wrote about it in our book. We said, why are we counting calories? Instead of counting calories, we need to make every calorie count. It's backed up now by Harvard Medical School. And right here, I'm going to read it. Harvard Medical School, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. We need to change the emphasis and put the emphasis on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. Okay? So the researchers said, all right, is it possible? This was a theory. Can we lower the quantity of food, but not lower the quantity of nutrition? To avoid what? Causing the body to break our muscles down for fuel, slowing down our metabolism. That's what happens on every diet, by the way. So how did they accomplish this? 40% of the food, they put a grocery list together. So you had fats, carbs, proteins, fruits, etc., that the people consume, but only 40%. The other 60%, they created what's called the world's most perfect meal, okay? Now, how did they do that? And why did they have to do that? Because our food in North America is becoming more and more nutritionally deficient, okay? That's a nice way of saying it. Let's just look at 3 quick examples. They estimate that an orange from 30 years ago, nutritionally today, you'd have to eat about 6 oranges, up to a dozen apples, and a bowl of spinach. Cornell University did a study on iron levels in spinach. From 1953 to today, they say that iron level has decreased by 4,300%. So all of you are going to tell me, well, I eat whole foods and I do organic too, but not because of the nutritional value. There were 200 studies done on organic compared to regular food. It's definitely a little bit more nutritious, but the main reason to do it, it's less polluted. There's less herbicides and pesticides, okay? So what's missing in our food, okay? First thing are what are called trace ionic minerals. You've heard of iron, calcium, magnesium, but you probably haven't heard about ultra trace minerals. What the heck are they? Well, believe it or not, the things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and arsenic and molybdenum and boron, okay? We need 70. It's the experts, not me saying that. It's the experts. In the best organic that they've measured, you get 15 to 20 out of 70. Wait a minute. I need 70 and I'm getting 20? You wonder why you're never satisfied? You wonder why you don't have enough energy? You're running on fumes. You're running on empty. So first thing on the world's most perfect meal were the 70 trace ionic minerals. Number 2, what's one of the most important things for all of us as human beings? Those are amino acids. You've probably heard the term. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know what they mean. I just saw a major obesity doctor today talking about, well, the way to lose weight is to, more protein. With all due respect, you have no idea what you're talking about, okay? Protein itself, the only reason we consume it is for what's inside the protein, the 20 amino acids. This will shock you. The protein itself is like a walnut shell. It's actually called a toxin, the protein that's not used, that's not converted to amino acids. They have a name. They call it nitrogen catabolites. That's the waste product of the remainder of the protein where you're not getting this. You've absorbed the amino acids, but the shell is left to get rid of. The kidneys have to get rid of it. That's why if you ever had a friend on kidney dialysis, they don't want to have any protein at all. So the researchers in Europe, this had nothing to do with these researchers. They developed a test through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis where you inject protein. They can tell you what percentage from 0 to 100 are actually being used by our body to remake us, okay? Because amino acids are the only way, well, here's what we do. Twice this month, we'll make new lining to our stomach. We'll create 2 new livers this year, and we'll turn over almost every cell in our body once every 7 years. That doesn't happen with fats, it doesn't happen with carbohydrates, and it doesn't happen with protein itself. It happens with the amino acids. So the most critical thing to us is not that we're getting all 20 amino acids from protein, but what percentage, 0 to 100, are we absorbing, using in our cells to remake us? Well, if we look at vegan proteins, plant-based, believe it or not, like a pea protein, the absorption is only 10%. Not my opinion. This is from these researchers in Europe. It's called net nitrogen utilization. Number 2, they looked at all meat, steak, chicken, liver, fish, turkey, trout, didn't matter, 30%. Well, the research, again, we're making the world's most perfect meal. The researchers found a protein source where the absorption was not 10% or 30%, 91%. Someone earlier had commented, what do you mean? People in these studies on this new protocol, we're not allowed to exercise, and yet they gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Here's why. The body, in order to make muscle, you need 1 of the 9 essential out of the 20 amino acids called leucine. Well, you can do the math. You're even eating normally, and you're having steak, chicken, liver, fish. Only 30% of the aminos are being used by your body. Well, in the studies, they were able to give people a 91% absorption. And again, they were consuming a third the amount, way less in terms of volume that they had been doing before in previous studies, because they gave people proteins on previous studies, right? The third thing is a very, very advanced electrolyte. Now, why are electrolytes important? They help to hydrate our body. And later on, I'll explain to you one of the new approaches that they did is something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not time-restricted eating, where you need an electrolyte on those days, okay? Fourth thing they found, and this was actually discovered by the East Germans and the Russians back in the 60s when they were beating us in track and field, and those are called adaptogens. They come actually from Mongolia and Manchuria. Those adaptogens do amazing things in our body. Number 1, they lower stress. Number 1. Number 2, they lower inflammation. Now, rather than making a claim and just telling you that, in the medical studies for the first time ever, they proved, again, people were consuming, part of what they were consuming on a day base was the world's most perfect meal. Inflammation went down 25% in 30 days. No one's ever seen a result like that, ever, ever, ever. It's because of the adaptogens. The last thing, the fifth thing, were naturally occurring vitamins. Now, you're going to tell me I'm on a multivitamin, it's like, congratulations. But 80-90% of all vitamins are synthetic. You do not want synthetic vitamins. This is such a major breakthrough because one of these food groups had these naturally occurring vitamins. So here's your perfect meal. You get all 70 trace ionic minerals, not 20. You're getting a 91% absorption of amino acids, not 30%. You're getting this amazing electrolyte. You're getting the adaptogens that lowering stress and inflammation in your body. And number 5, these natural vitamins. Okay, so now they have the ingredients. 40% regular, organic food from the grocery store, 60% to create these world's most perfect foods. Perfect meals, sorry. Okay, now they did 2 new ways of consuming. Number 1 was called protein pacing. On those days, real simple, every day was the same. They started their morning, you could call it breakfast, with the world's most perfect food. Nothing from the grocery store. Lunch from the grocery store, dinner from the grocery store. And then they'd had a 4th meal. That 4th meal after dinner, not a dessert, was, again, the world's most perfect meal. So what they did on those days, they accomplished what they wanted to do. They were lowering the quantity of the food people were consuming, but they had massive amounts of nutrition, okay? Then 2 days a week, they did what's called intermittent nutritional fasting, not time-restricted eating. On those days, no food from the grocery store, only the world's first perfect foods 4 times a day, not twice, 4 times. Now, why did they do that? Why was it intermittent nutritional fasting? Well, first you have to understand that when you went to sleep last night, including me, as long as we didn't eat too late, the body automatically, once you go to sleep, slows down digestion and then turns on a natural detox mechanism in all of us. It's called autophagy. It's a fancy name for taking out the dead cells. That happens every single night. You don't have to do anything. Well, the researchers on those 48-hour intermittent nutritional fasting days, where they were doing blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, proved that this protocol, first and foremost, that's why weight loss is the least important part of it. It was assisting the body in removing herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon from the body. That's the main reason to do this, okay? Now, let me introduce one more thing to you. And this I'm very proud of. This is a medical syndrome. This is a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. What the heck does it stand for? T is for toxicity, D for nutritional deficiency, O for being overweight, and S for stress. Now, in case you don't know about a registered trademark, what you do, you submit your research to the patent office, and then they, especially when it's medical stuff, they search the world to find out if there's anything similar, because they're not going to grant you a registered, they're protecting your intellectual property, but they want to make sure they're not infringing on somebody else's. So this is a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office, and every one of us have the TDOS syndrome, okay? Now, let's go to the experts. Why should we be concerned about this? Well, wait till I read this to you. This is from world experts now on the toxins, the chemicals we're storing inside of our body. Listen to this. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and the clinical practice of endocrinology, reports the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise and the use and distribution of industrial chemicals that are playing a role in generational obesity. They give these chemicals a name. I want you to, you hopefully will pay attention now. Obesogens. Listen to what they say. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our body from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastics in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on our produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones such as estrogen and blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. What are you doing about obesogens? Because none of these diets have ever, they haven't done a thing about removing chemicals from the body ever tested until now. But let's hear from another expert about obesogens. Frederick von Saal, professor of biological science at the University of Missouri Columbia, stated obesogens are acting by hijacking the regulatory system that controls body weight. That's what they said in the Endocrine Society. He goes on to say, this presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low carbohydrates, low calorie diets been forced to accommodate for this level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat. There you go. You understand now why people, when they lose the weight, they have all that excess skin, all that excess fat, because the medical proof is what? That on diets, you're losing weight every time, every diet, but up to 40% is lean muscle mass and almost no fat lost at all until now. First of all, that's wrong. We don't lose fat. It either shrinks or expands. So what happens now, we're ingesting the obesogens. The body, to protect us, takes the chemical, stuffs it in that obesogen fat cell, and it expands. Well, in the studies, they proved that the visceral fat went down by 33% in 8 weeks. No one allowed to exercise. Look, I understand you're skeptical. The researchers, they've never seen anything less than 38 years of research on 150 different diets and nutrition. Look, they've worked with Navy SEALs and Green Berets and CrossFit people. And so they weren't against exercise, but they were shocked at the results. When they started, they didn't know if this was going to work. It had never been done before. It was completely new concept. And so, again, you have a choice or not. You can go to the website and see the free, including an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world who did the studies and is considered the top person in the world for 38 years. He's getting calls from all over the world, from Harvard Medical School, from Oxford in England, from Cambridge, from people in Japan, saying, you've now obsoleted every kind of diet out there counting calories. And if you want to do that, go for it. We're not here to convince you. We're not here to twist your, we don't have to convince you. But I would say this to you in all fairness, with all the people out there on social media that are telling you about losing weight, has anyone ever showed you one shred of medical evidence? And again, on our website, just to show you again, there's nothing to buy there. It's the medical proof. #1 is the interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. 2, there's a video explanation of exactly what they did. 3, the actual research studies and authentic before and after pictures that aren't just about the weight loss, but literally about the medical changes that people saw. I know it sounds too good to be true. I do. I do this. I'm doing 2 or 3 of these podcasts a day because there's so many people that want to find out about it. We're here to make you aware. And that website, let me put it. Okay, Julio, I've been following what you're saying in these lives and lost 6 pounds. My calories went from 800 to 250. What book do you send the endocrine information from? I'm not. Oh, it's in the Endocrine Society. I was just quoting what they were saying. It's in my book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. Okay, so just to let you know. And the foods are, how can I explain it to you? Yeah, they're mostly liquids, but again, it's a different form of massive amounts of nutrition. And then, but as I said, not me. 40% of what they're, is fruits, vegetables, chewable food, I guess you could say that, right? But again, go look at the medical proof. You show me anything. So again, let's say you don't do this. What any of you, I'll offer. What's your solution? What are you going to do with? Because right now, Johns Hopkins is saying that 86% of Americans are going to be obese or overweight by 2030 in less than 6 years. So what are you going to do about that? I mean, I hope you're part of. It looks like because this year it's at 80% overweight, 50% obese. It's getting worse and worse. And what do? We keep doing the same thing. People come on here all the time and say, well, the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Really? The body doesn't care about calories. It cares about nutrition. It doesn't. You have to get the nutrition in your body. It doesn't matter what form it comes in. And if you don't have to chew to get the nutrition, and it's not a supplement, okay? And again, I don't know what, okay. Yeah, the peaches, thanks. Zaria, good. Well, I'm glad you're following what I'm saying. I'm not quite sure what you're doing, but that's okay. But what is the food supply, the perfect meal? I'm sorry. I think I answered that for you, okay? And again, let me put the website up that you guys can. I don't want any of you to believe me. I don't know why you would think that, I'm the researcher of the researchers. But when you have the opportunity to see this interview, and I'm just having trouble posting the link. I don't know why. Hold on just a second, everybody. I'll type it. The new health conversation. The website's free. It's all lowercase. There's nothing to buy there. There, you can see it right there. There's nothing to buy. But here's what I would say to you. Be skeptical. Doesn't matter if you like me, you don't like me, you don't wear my glasses. I mean, science doesn't care about me. But when you're talking about a peer-reviewed human trial study, okay, you can come on and make any comments you want. You can give me any opinion. But unless you've got medical evidence, which there isn't any out there, all the studies have been done on traditional diets, and I'll show you a couple of them here in a moment, were not done by like paleo or keto or whatever. The difference here is that these researchers who had analyzed every diet out there created this from scratch. It had never been done before because it sounded crazy. How could we lower the quantity of food and yet increase the nutrition so we didn't trigger the starvation mode in the body, which is what happens to you on every diet any of you have ever been on in your lifetime, right? The previous video, I'm not here to listen. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, but that's okay. The thing that I would invite, go look at the medical evidence. I don't want you to believe me. But can anyone tell me anything like this, where men and women with no exercise lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet, lost no water weight and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle? It's in the studies. It's not an opinion on my part, okay? The other thing that I wanted to share with all of you was the fact that I don't want to disparage any of the people that are on social media. There's medical doctors, there's chiropractors, there's nutritionists, dietitians, workout people, weight loss coaches. But I would say, one, are they showing you one shred of medical evidence? Two, are they offering you free consultations? Our website is totally open. You don't have to buy anything to see the medical proof. You don't have to buy anything, period. If you sign up to do a free personal consultation, which you scroll down on the website at the bottom, it says sign up for free personal consultation. But that's after you've gotten to view a 20-minute video of here's what they did. Here's an interview with the number one nutritional researcher in the world. Here are the medical studies. Here's the before and afters. I don't know what else you'd want us to provide than that to show you. And the whole key to this is not the question of can you lose weight 12 times faster than any diet. That's been proven. But also now what's been proven 2 and 3 years later, the people in these studies have been able to keep their weight off. That's why it's called R2M. That's what the researchers call it, race to maintenance. Because the idea is to get you to your goal. That's the failure of all diets. They're not arguing that you can lose weight on any diet. They're just saying it's the most unhealthy way to lose weight and you're going to gain back all your weight. Well, right here, this big article saying 66 and 2/3 of people who go any form of calorie restriction, calorie lowering diet gain back more weight than they lost. What? Yeah. Now, let's look at a couple of the big studies done on diets. So first, let's just analyze New England Journal of Medicine, a 12-month study. Not 12 weeks, 12 months. 2 groups of people. One group did time-restricted eating, where you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. It's a big rage right now, okay? The second group just did lowering calories. I think we could say that's every diet out there, okay? After 12 months, the people who did lowering calories lost 16 pounds in a year. And those people who did time-restricted eating lost 12.6 pounds in a year. But right in the study, they said both those doing calorie-restricted diets and time-restricted eating lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. There's your Achilles heel to any diet you're on right now. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but see, your opinion doesn't matter when it comes to science. And I'm not saying, I mean, we've had people come on these calls, I lost 25 pounds, I lost 50 pounds. Okay, let's see what you weigh in 6 months. Let's see what you weigh a year from now when you've gained all the weight back. Because the medical proof is solid that weight, 40% of what you're losing is lean muscle. So if you lost 50 pounds, 20 pounds is lean muscle mass. And you know what the experts say about muscle mass? To gain back 1 pound of lean muscle, it takes you about 12 months if you go to the gym and you do everything right. I know, I saw it with my mother. My mother was morbidly obese. I shared that story with some of you before. 23 years ago, she called me up and said, I have one more big wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I would give anything to spend 24 hours thin. I said, that's cool, Mom. Well, 6 months later, not so cool. My mom died of a massive heart attack and stroke. My mom did about every diet that there was. Some of you may have done, she did Weight Watchers for years, nothing against them, but she did the grapefruit diet and the cabbage diet and the Optifast and Atkins diet, and she'd cut diets out of Hollywood. She did every diet you could almost imagine was available 23 years ago. I believe she dieted herself to death, because now I understand that she'd lose 20 pounds and up to 40% was lean muscle. So then she'd go on the next diet, she was already down lean muscle. Over and over and over again. It's actually called catabolic metabolism, where your body eats your muscles. But the most extreme of diet restriction is anorexia. Some of you may or may not know the singer Karen Carpenter. Brilliant. She had anorexia, and according to all the reports, what had happened, she went through and lost first all her muscle mass, then all her fat, and then at the very end, her body, to survive, began to eat her heart, and she died of a heart attack. I mean, for all of you, again, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't have to believe me. You can hang on to these, your belief about lowering calories, about paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, etc. But honestly, aren't you sick and tired of going on a diet, you lose some weight, you plateau, you come off the diet, you gain everything back? And the main reason to do what I'm talking about is not to lose weight. That's not the most, no, that's the least important reason. Here's another big point. The CDC about 8 months ago came out and said that 92% of you and me and everybody are metabolic unhealthy if you have 3 of these 5 factors: overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. In these studies, in 30 days, all 5 came down dramatically. Also, inflammation. which is the underlying cause, according to the medical community, of every disease out there, it came down 25% in 30 days. People's hunger came down 41% in 30 days. And in 8 weeks, they shrank that visceral, the dangerous fat around our organs where we're storing chemicals, by 33% with no exercise, no sit-ups, no crunches, no anything. I mean, if you go to the website, I can't show them on here, I'd be banned. I'm serious. The before and afters, you'll swear we photoshopped them. You'll see people there that lost like 100 pounds with no loose skin. I know you think we photoshopped it. We didn't. There's a picture of one woman in 5 weeks. You will absolutely think it's a different person in just 5 weeks. But what's more important to you? Do you want to be right about a belief that's not based on any type of scientific evidence? Do you want to, somehow you're going to beat the odds? If they're saying in less than 6 years, 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese, this is not about fat shaming. Do you know that they say that Harvard Medical School says that obesity leads to almost 48 medical conditions? I have a friend that's a brilliant oncologist, and she told me a few months ago, she said, Peter, she said the number one preventable cause of cancer used to be cigarette smoking. You know what she told me? Said now it's obesity. It's a tragedy. And like I said, I lived with it my whole life, seeing my mom be obese and struggle and being so unhappy, and she would have just given anything to just spend 24 hours thin. Not a week, not a month, not a year. She was awesome. I miss her. It didn't matter that she was obese. What was so sad was she tried so hard. And she could, she'd do a diet unless or until, once she plateaued, once she couldn't lose anymore, then she'd come off it, gain all her weight back, and then look for the next new diet. It wasn't her unwillingness to do it. It was she had the wrong approach that we now know. When even Harvard Medical School is saying stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not just antiquated, it's just wrong. I mean, I'm being really serious. I mean, I'd love for any of you to put in the comment a diet that you think works, because the medical evidence doesn't support it. And I'll go to one other big. Post the website again. Okay, let me put that up there. I can't. Why isn't it posted? Hold on. I'll get to your question in a moment, I promise. There it is. There's the free website to go to. And Julio, it's called Isogenics. But the thing you have to understand is that the researchers used that plus other foods and a protocol that's completely different. So they were really like the grocery store that supplied some of the world's most perfect foods, and some of it they got from other sources as well, okay? But remember, it's not what you're going to be consuming. It's teaching you how to consume what you're consuming, if that makes any sense at all. And again, it's the only protocol in the world that's ever been put to the scrutiny of peer-reviewed human trial studies from its inception. The researchers use these elements, regular food plus these other foods, et cetera, but in a very specific way, really important. So over 50% of the success they had was because of the protocol that's called R2M, okay? So, again, I'm not sure he just drank water and pinch of salt for 40 days. I'm not sure what that's all about, but so does anyone want to post anything in the comments about a question or something that they're doing or trying? I'd love to know, are you on a diet right now? I'd like to know, what have your results been? But again, I will promise you that nobody on social media have peer-reviewed human trial studies. Are they showing you a medical website where you can see everything that the people did in advance, okay? And then also, are you able to set a free consultation? And like I said, 60% of what you would purchase comes with a 100% money back guarantee. What's your risk? Your risk is you hold on to your, it's kind of like you're fighting harder for your limitations than your possibilities. I understand that it sounds too good to be true. Well, actually, it's better than that, to be quite honest. I don't believe I'd even be alive today. I did this 21 years ago. I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks. And this is my personal story. So I don't want anybody to think I'm not curing, treating, diagnosing, or any medical conditions, except this is what happened to me. So 21 years ago, walking my doctor's office, and he said, Peter, if you don't, for my physical, got the results. And he comes in with this stern look and says, if you don't do something radically different today, he said, you've got about 18 months to live. Your chance of a heart attack is at 85%. I was 40 pounds overweight. My cholesterol was 400. My triglycerides were 300. And he put me on diet, exercise, and a statin for high cholesterol. Well, 8 weeks later, I came back. I'd been exercising, went down to like 1,300 calories a day. And in 8 weeks, I lost 8 pounds. But my cholesterol only came down like 15 or 20 points. He couldn't give me any more meds. So a friend of mine who had played professional football for the Oakland Raiders turned me on to the early version of what's now what they did in the medical studies, because they took it to a whole different level. But as far as I was concerned, I went on it. That 8 pounds that had taken me 8 weeks to lose, I lost 8 pounds in 4 days, 12 pounds in 9 days, 20 pounds in 18 days, 30 pounds in a month, 40 pounds in 7 weeks. The next week I was scheduled. It was 8 weeks from my last appointment to go in, and they drew my blood. I came in, met with my doctor. He throws my chart down and says, Peter, you're trying to kill yourself. I said, what are you talking about? He says, how much statin you're taking? I said, Doc, I haven't touched that stuff in 8 weeks. I'm not suggesting you do that. Do not hear me. I'm telling you my story, okay? Don't say, Peter Greenlaw said, you don't have to take statin. No. I never said that. Just telling you what happened to me. And I said, why? And he said, well, your cholesterol's gone from 400 to 130. Your triglycerides have gone from 300 to 30. You've lost 40 pounds, and your heart attack risk has dropped from an 85% chance out of 100 to 15. I said, you're not retesting me. So that's pretty amazing. And like I said, 21 years later, I've been able to maintain the 40 pounds. I just had a physical like 5 months ago, and my cholesterol was still like 120. Triglycerides were like 30 or 40. I mean, I feel fantastic. You get a chance. My mom didn't. You get a chance to hit the reset button if you want. I realize the skepticism is that you think somehow you're going to go to the website and we're going to contact you. We're going to twist your arm. We're going to try and bait and switch you, etc. Let me show all of you the website again. You'll see there's nothing to buy there. The only thing there is the medical proof for all of you. The podcast, the video explanation of what they did, the peer-reviewed studies, and the authentic before and after pictures. You control this, not us. And then if you go there and you like what you see, then you can sign up for a free personal consultation or not. We're not there to, we're too busy. We have too many people that are in, well, I mean, yeah, if we got 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, and 50% pre-diabetic right now, I heard today something really scary. 77% of young people, draft age, are being rejected by the military because they're overweight or obese. 77%. I mean, now being overweight is a national security issue. All I'm saying is, from a rational standpoint of view, if you just look at it and say, what's the evidence? Do diets work or don't they? We wrote the book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, 14 years ago. Well, the research wasn't anything like what it is today. Of course, these new peer-reviewed human trial studies, they weren't available. We knew about them, but they weren't published yet. You have to get them published. That's a really big deal. So I would say, aren't you a little bit curious if you could, in the interview, and I'll show you the interview again on the website, it's the first module with the number one nutritional researcher physiologist in the world. And, you know, I asked him the question, I said, would you ever recommend a traditional diet to any of your patients ever again? He said, absolutely not. He said it would be such almost unethical. Why would we have people go on a diet to lose unhealthy weight loss in 8 weeks, lose water and lose lean muscle, when we have the medical proof that this protocol, which is not a diet, which granted they invented, okay, this protocol. Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, no water loss, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass, lost as much weight in a month as a year. Do you want to take a year to lose weight that you could lose in 30 days? guess, that what would hold you back is your skepticism. And that's okay. We don't have enough time to be convincing people or tricking people, right? Yeah, TT Peaches. Okay, hold on. I love to learn how to eat what I'm eating. I'd love to learn the science. Yeah, I see it, TT Peaches. That's why go to the website, get a free consultation, and they'll go over everything with you for free. There's no charge for them to go over, because that's one of the things they'd want to know. What did you try? What did you do in the past? What worked or what didn't work for you, right? Posting the website again for everybody so you can all see it. Sometimes I get so many comments on here, I'm unable to post. There you go. You can see it, the new health, it posted it a couple different times. So TT Peaches, just like I said, go to the website, look at the science, sign up for free consultation, and go from there. And obviously I don't encourage any of the rest of you to do the same thing. You don't have to. You can just go to the website, see the medical proof, and that's the end of it. Because we won't contact you, all right? So I know there's new people coming on all the time. But I'm going to sort of wrap this up now, this podcast. I'll do another one. So it's 4:30 on the East Coast. I'll probably do another one around maybe 5:30 or 6. But in conclusion, what we talked about is why traditional diets are failing us huge. Harvard Medical School said stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not just antiquated, it's just wrong. They said we need to change the narrative and concentrate on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming, okay? All the medical studies show you can lose weight on every diet out there, but up to 40% of what you're losing is lean muscle mass, slows down your metabolism. You come off the diet, you're gaining all your weight back. You know it's true. You've already experienced it. Or maybe this is your first diet and you haven't experienced it yet, but all the evidence, that's what it points to. So these researchers who had done 38 years of diet, nutrition, exercise research for 38 years, 150 studies, what they figured out, what they figured out what didn't work. And the basic premise of all diets is you're lowering, forget calories. The human body doesn't even know what a calorie is. We wrote about it in our first book, said the enemy's not calories. Instead of counting calories, we need to make every calorie count. Now Harvard Medical School, Journal of American Medical Association, nutrients, obese, they're all saying the same thing. We can't just think that a calorie is a measurement. It's not a real thing. I mean, it's a real thing in terms of a laboratory. It's the amount of heat you take to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. It's not. You're not consuming calories. You're consuming nutrition or lack thereof. So in simplicity, the researchers were able to figure out how they could lower the amount of food people consume, but not lower the amount of nutrition. And they did that by 40% of the food people got from the grocery store, and literally 5 foods that created the world's most perfect meal in a day. Out of 4 meals, people had a perfect meal in the morning, a regular lunch from the grocery store, a regular dinner from the grocery store, and a 4th meal from the world's most perfect food. They did that 5 days a week. 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store, only the world's most perfect meals 4 times a day. But it's complicated. I'm making it as simple as I can. But the reason to go to the website is see the medical irrefutable proof. Irrefutable. That's what a peer-reviewed human trial study is all about, okay? Like no drug ever gets approved, not with a clinical trial, not with a scientific paper, none of that stuff. And not a study done on rats or mice, only human beings. So they published 7 major medical journals published these results, which the world experts are saying this is going to change the world. Everything we thought about diet, exercise, nutrition is out the window. And this new protocol called R2M will obsolete every single traditional diet out there, period. So last time, you can see right there the new health conversation. Okay, 4 kg. I would say we're pretty good. I would say within 24 hours or less. It's still early enough in the day. You might even hear back from them today, but it will be no more than I shouldn't say that. We're getting so many people that want to do it, but so far we've been able to get back to people within a day or less, okay? And keep in mind, 4 kg, it's free to get the personal consultation. And they're not going to try and sell you or convince you. We don't do that. We're there to answer your questions. Because maybe you want to gain weight. Maybe, are you an athlete? What have you tried before? There's so many variables. I mean, we've got kids as young as 2 doing parts of this, people in their 90s. We have a gentleman with a heart transplant. We got people with kidney transplants, thyroid, I mean, all. And we're not treating, curing, diagnosing, or making any medical proclamations at all. We don't need to do that. What we'll do is show you the medical proof of what they did in the medical studies. The one thing you guaranteed, it's safe. But the main reason to do it is not to lose weight. Does that make sense to everyone? So, any last questions? No last questions from anybody? So one last time, I want to show everybody, so you're not intimidated. The website is free. You can see there's not, you can't buy my books there. We're not selling you books. I don't want to sell you books, okay? Because this is the most current medical proof. If you're going to make a decision about potentially the rest of your life, we want you to have the most up-to-date data. Okay, I mean, like this book I wrote in 2010, we've had 3 updates, but we can't keep pace with these new, studies that have now come out to prove everything that we wrote about, in our books. Okay, so I'm going to end this podcast right now, and in case you have a friend, I also would appreciate it if you go to my TikTok. It's the New Health Conversation, and you can see there for yourself. I've got about 300 10-minute versions of these. They're not podcasts. They're like 10-minute versions to give you, various insights on proteins. And there's interviews there with, some pretty amazing people. So I can't think of anything else. And again, I would just encourage you to go to the website, see all the free information if you want, sign up for a free consultation, and we look forward to helping you if we can, okay? So I'm going to say good afternoon or good morning or good night, because I know there's people listening from all over the world. When I get the stats, I'm amazed that, there's people in the UK and Spain and Madrid and China and Japan, and it's just crazy. Good. I'm not complaining. So all of you, I hope you'll have a wonderful rest of your day, and we're going to end this now. And like I said, I'll probably come back on in maybe an hour for my last podcast of the day.